You have spent years looking back and asking God the same thing, over and over, without ever receiving the answer you expected. Why that relationship ended that way? Why that money never arrived at the time you needed it most? Why that door closed exactly when everything seemed about to change? And today, on this June 12th, I need to deliver to you a truth that is perhaps the hardest you have ever heard about your own history. What you lost in those years was not punishment. It was not retribution. It was not a sign of abandonment. It was preparation. Each loss was a necessary demolition, because the state of consciousness you carried at that time could never sustain the life you are about to live from now on. Breathe deeply, because what I am going to reveal to you in the next few minutes will reorganize everything you believed about your past. You do not attract what you want. You attract what you feel you already are. And as long as you feel like a forgotten person, a delayed person, a person marked by what was left behind, life can only return to you in the form of circumstance, more exact proofs of what you feel inside. The law of assumption does not punish you. It mirrors you. It is the perfect reflection of your inner world, of your I am, of the state in which you dwell most of the time, especially in the minutes before falling asleep. And that is why so many Brazilians, especially above 35, 40, 50 years old, live with that strange feeling in their chest that it should have worked out, but it didn't. It didn't work out because you were still inhabiting the wrong state. And today, finally, that is going to change. Think carefully about what I'm going to tell you now. When you lost that person, that job, that money, that house, that friendship, that opportunity that seemed unique, you were still operating from the old I am. The I am of the child who grew up hearing, "This is not for you, my son." The I am of the woman who learned too early that love always hurts. The I am of the man who was silenced by his father and never again had the courage to dream high. The I am of that root Brazilian who grew up believing that prosperity is for others, for the children of the rich, for those who were lucky. If what you desired at that instant had arrived, it would have fallen upon an inner ground that was not yet firm. It would have slipped through your fingers. It would have become an even greater fall than the lack was. God did not deny you. God spared you from receiving something that would destroy you before the time. And this strange sensation that is tightening your chest at this exact moment, this shiver of recognition, this thought of, "My God, it was this all along." Pay close attention, because it was not by chance that you opened this video exactly on this June 12th. There is a part of you that already knew. There is a silent calling that has been reaching you for weeks, perhaps months, in dreams you cannot explain, in awakenings in the middle of the night at 3, 4 in the morning, in thoughts that appear out of nowhere while you drive, wash the dishes, or look through the bus window. Many people feel this spiritual discomfort. Very few understand what is truly happening. You are being prepared for something much larger than just resolving an overdue bill or conquering a new love. You are being called to protect your house, your children, your entire family, in a time when most people around you will be too lost to see the signs. That is why I prepared the powerful digital book for you, called How to Know If God Will Save You in the Final Judgment. It is not an ordinary book. It is an inner map written for the soul of the Brazilian who is already tired of empty promises and wants to see with spiritual clarity where they are truly stepping before the Father. The link is right there in the description of this video and pinned at the top of the comments, waiting for your click. Every day I receive messages from people crying upon finishing the reading, saying it was as if a blindfold had fallen from the eyes of the soul, and that for the first time in years they were able to sleep in peace. Do not let this moment pass unnoticed. This video may go offline at any moment, because this message bothers many people who prefer to keep others asleep. If you feel this is for you, write Amen now there in the comments as a decree of acceptance of this new reality that is being opened for you. Now I will teach you the first thing that very few Brazilians have understood about the teachings of Neville Goddard and Joseph Murphy, and that will change forever the way you view every pain of your past. The feeling is the secret. It is not the prayer made aloud that moves mountains. It is not the number of times you repeat an affirmation in the mirror. It is not the size of your vision board, nor your discipline of reading beautiful phrases in the morning. It is the feeling. It is the inner state in which you allow yourself to dwell when no one is looking, when you are driving alone, when you are lying in bed before sleeping, when you wake up in the middle of the night with that tightness in your chest without knowing how to explain where it came from. It is there in that intimate and unprotected instant that your life is being written, line by line, decision by decision of consciousness. Most people try to manifest with their heads held high during the day, making powerful affirmations, giving thanks, smiling, posting motivational phrases on their status. And at night, in the silent internal dialogue, they whisper to themselves, "This will never happen to me. I have tried everything. Life does not love me. I am different. With me it doesn't work." And it is this silent whisper, this intimate murmur of the tired soul, that dictates your world. Because the universe, God, the infinite consciousness, does not respond to what you speak aloud. It responds to what you feel you already are. And as long as your I am is rooted in scarcity, in waiting, in self-distrust, no technique will work, no mantra, no method. The fourth dimension, this invisible plane where the desire already exists, fulfilled in a perfect state, only returns to you in this material dimension exactly what you occupy inside. And that is exactly where the common error enters that nullifies all your manifestations, an error so subtle that very few people in Brazil can identify in themselves. I will reveal this error to you in a few moments, but first I need to remind you of something important. You did not arrive at this video out of curiosity. You were led, and whoever is leading you knows exactly the weight you carry for your family. That is why the book, How to Know If God Will Save You in the Final Judgment, is waiting for you in the link in the description and pinned at the top of the comments. Do not postpone this calling. Whoever postpones loses the window. Access it now before this force that brought you here dissipates in tomorrow's routine. The common error that nullifies your manifestation is impatience disguised as faith. It is when you assume the state of the fulfilled desire for a few days, feel a genuine joy, see some signs begin to appear on the path, and then, on the 5th day, in the 2nd week in the 1st month, you look around and ask, "Well, where is it?" And it is at that exact instant that you leave the state. You descend from the 4th dimension. You return to the state of one who is still waiting. And the universe, always faithful to your I am, returns to you more waiting. More absence, more not yet. Persistence in the feeling is not stubbornness. It is not forcing it. It is not clenching your teeth and pushing. It is occupation. It is dwelling. It is you deciding to live inside the state of the person who has already received and remaining there in peace, even when the outside world has not yet given you the material proofs. Imagine a 47-year-old Brazilian woman, a single mother, who spent the last 12 years of her life paying bills with a tight heart every end of the month. She wakes up at 5 in the morning, takes 2 buses to get to work, returns home exhausted, and still has to deal with her teenage son who is in a difficult phase. She heard about the law of assumption, began to practice, to feel prosperous, to give thanks for the abundance even before it appeared. For an entire week she vibrated high, but the 10th day of the month arrived. The electricity bill was due, the salary had not yet dropped, and she looked at the ceiling with tears in her eyes and said, "See, it doesn't work. Always the same thing with me. I am cursed." In that exact instant, she returned to the I am of scarcity. She left the 4th dimension. She cancelled, with a single phrase spoken in the internal dialogue, everything that was being built silently in the invisible dimension. What this woman, and perhaps you who are listening to me now, have not yet understood is the concept of the bridge of incidents. When you truly assume the state of the fulfilled desire and remain in it, the universe builds a bridge of small events to lead you to that reality. A call you did not expect, a chance encounter at the market, an idea that arises in your mind out of nowhere while you shower, a name that appears 3 times in front of you in a single week, a door that opens in a direction you had not even thought of. Each of these small incidents is a beam of this bridge of incidents, and your role is not to build the bridge. Your role is only to remain in the state, feeling with the tranquility of one who has already received, while the bridge builds itself under your feet, often in directions that your rational mind could never predict. When you give up halfway, when you doubt, when you despair for immediate evidence, you are not just postponing your manifestation, you are demolishing the beams that had already been placed. You are forcing the universe to start over from zero. And that is why the lives of most Brazilians seem to go in circles, always returning to the same point. They advance 3 steps, retreat 4. They vibrate high for a week, then spend an entire month in scarcity. They pray with faith on Friday at church, and on Monday morning they are already cursing life in traffic. There I am is a revolving door, and the universe, patient as always, keeps waiting for them to decide, once and for all, where they truly want to live. There is also another concept that needs to enter inside you now, and which is based on modern science itself. It is not mysticism at all. The human heart emits a measurable electromagnetic field, proven in the laboratory, many times stronger than the electric field of the brain. When you feel truly with the fibers of your chest the state of the fulfilled desire, this electromagnetic field changes. It begins to vibrate at a different frequency, more coherent, more ordered. And quantum physics has known for decades that the frequency of the observer alters the behavior of what is observed. In other words, what you feel in your chest literally reorganizes the material reality around you. It is not a metaphor. It is not cheap mysticism. It is the greatest discovery of our era about human consciousness. And the Bible already said this more than 2,000 years ago, when it taught that the kingdom of God is within you. And here comes the most delicate point of our conversation, the place where the law of assumption meets the faith of the root Brazilian. When Neville Goddard taught about the power of the I Am, he was talking about the exact same I Am that appears in the scriptures when God reveals himself to Moses before the burning bush. I am that I am. It is not a coincidence. It is the same creative force. It is the same infinite consciousness that sustains the entire universe. And it lives inside you, waiting to be occupied with consciousness, ceasing to serve you as a victim and starting to serve you as an heir. But occupying this state, sustaining this new consciousness before the pressures of Brazilian life, the bills that arrive, the family that demands, the work that drains, the people who will try to pull you back to the old I Am, this requires a map. And it is precisely this map that the digital book, How to Know If God Will Save You in the Final Judgment, places in your hand. It was not written to entertain. It was written to shake, to open the eyes of those who have not yet realized the spiritual weight of the moment we are living in this Brazil. The link is pinned there in the description and at the top of the comments, waiting for your click. It is not just a book, it is a decision. Whoever clicks chooses to see, whoever ignores chooses to remain asleep while time passes. Now let us go to the most powerful teaching of this night, perhaps the key to everything you are hearing. The reprogramming of the subconscious happens, mainly, in the minutes before you fall asleep. It is in that state between awake and asleep, in that subtle border where the conscious mind surrenders and the subconscious remains completely exposed, vulnerable, receptive, that your life is written or rewritten. Joseph Murphy called this moment the prayer state. Neville Goddard called it the state akin to sleep. The ancient mystics called it the threshold. Modern neuroscience calls it the alpha state. The names are different. The truth is the same. In those sacred minutes, what you feel becomes law. What you imagine becomes destiny. What you assume becomes biography. And here is the problem of the average Brazilian. The problem that is perhaps your problem too. The Brazilian of 35, 40, 50 years old, who carries the exhaustion of an entire life of struggle, goes to sleep every night repeating in silence, inside their own head, the following internal dialogue. Tomorrow again this rush. How will I pay this bill? This son of mine doesn't listen to me. This marriage of mine is ending. I will never get out of this life. Each of these phrases, whispered by the tired mind in the minutes before sleep, is a decree that the subconscious receives as an absolute order, and that it will execute with surgical precision in the coming days and months, mobilizing situations, people, encounters, and opportunities to confirm exactly that narrative you planted. You are not being persecuted by life, you are being obeyed by it. And that is what hurts when you finally understand. Life is delivering to you, with frightening precision, exactly what you decreed in the silence of your tired nights. Every bad morning was a request made the night before. Every disappointment that appears was an expectation planted in the minutes before sleep. Every repetition of that same situation that you swear to everyone you want to change Was you yourself confirming, in internal dialogue, that it was inevitable, that it was your destiny, that with me, it is always like this? Now stop everything, close your eyes for a moment and think, what if on this night that is coming, instead of taking to bed the weight of the entire day, you began to practice the technique of the state already fulfilled? What if, with closed eyes and slow breathing, you visualized and above all felt with all the fibers of your chest a scene that proved that your desire has already been fulfilled? Not the scene of the money falling into the account, but the scene after that. You buying what you needed without any tightness in your chest. You signing that contract with firm hands. You hugging that person who returned home. You receiving the result of the medical exam that said everything was fine. You hearing your son tell you, "Mom, I love you, thank you for everything." You seeing yourself in a totally new way in the bathroom mirror. Small scenes, intimate scenes, natural scenes, as if they had already happened long ago. And you fall asleep in that sensation. Not in the craving, not in the despair, not in the demand, not in the question, will it happen? But in the quiet gratitude of one who has already received and is simply living, in peace, the natural consequences of it. Do this for a single night. You feel a subtle difference upon waking. Do this for an entire week. You begin to see the first incidents appearing. Do this for 30 days straight. Your life begins to rearrange itself inside, in silence, even before changing on the outside. And when the external change arrives, and it will arrive, you will not even be surprised. You will only recognize it. You will only say, "Amen, it was this." Because that is what the masters of the law of assumption understood, that no one else understood in this agitated world. Manifestation is not magic. It is not luck. It is not the universe giving you a prize because you behaved well this week. It is a mathematical consequence. It is spiritual law. It is the same immutable law that makes the apple fall from the branch of the apple tree. You occupy a state, the state materializes in this dimension. You leave the state ceases to materialize and begins to disappear, simple as that. And at the same time, difficult like nothing in this world, because no one ever taught you to inhabit an inner state different from the one in which you were born and raised. And that is why the past you lament today with tears in your chest needs to be reframed now. Everything that happened to you, all the doors that closed at once, all the people who left without explanation, all the delays that seemed unfair, all the humiliations that hurt, all the public failures, all the falls you had to hide from the world, all of this was exactly what needed to happen, so that you would arrive at this moment, hearing these words on this June 12th, about to make a conscious choice about who you want to be from now on. If everything had come before, you would not have been ready. If the blessing had arrived at the time you desired, you would have ruined everything. You were still the old version of yourself. You still lived in the state of consciousness of scarcity, of revenge, of anger, of fear, of lack, of, "I need to prove to someone." And whoever inhabits these states, even when they receive much, loses everything quickly. Think of all the people you know who won a lot of money at once and lost it in a short time, who conquered a great love and destroyed it with their own hands, who received a dream opportunity at work and sabotaged themselves in a few months. It was not bad luck. It was not the evil eye. It was not the work of fate. It was the state of consciousness. They received materially, but they continued living inside themselves as that old person who did not deserve it, who does not sustain it, who does not belong there. And the universe, faithful to their internal I am, withdrew what had been delivered. Because the life you live, in the long run, always has to match the person you feel you are deep in your chest. Always, without exception. So the question that needs to land inside you tonight before closing your eyes is, who are you? Not who you want to be. Not who you are trying to be for others. Who do you feel, with all the fibers of your chest, in the silent depths of your soul, that you are? Because it is this answer and only this one that is building your tomorrow. Are you a blessed person who has not yet seen the blessing arrive, but knows, with unshakable firmness, that it is already on the way? Or are you a forgotten person who is tired of waiting for a blessing that may never come? These two people live in completely different worlds, and they decide in which world they will wake up tomorrow right there, in the exact 5-10 minutes before sleeping. There is a simple ancient exercise taught by Neville and confirmed by Murphy that you can begin to practice starting tonight. Before sleeping, choose a single phrase, a short phrase, that describes with precision the state of one who has already received what you desire. For example, "Thank you, I am blessed with plenty in my house," or "I am loved and I love back in peace," or "My family walks protected by the Lord," or even "I am healthy, free, and prosperous." Choose yours, feel yours, make it a living decree, and repeat this phrase in a slow rhythm, almost whispered, during the last 5 to 10 minutes before falling asleep. Not as a mechanical mantra, as a recognized truth, as if you were simply confirming what already is, what has already been delivered, what already exists in the fourth dimension, waiting only for your feeling to materialize in this one. Do this for 30 nights straight, without failing a single one, and tell me in the comments what happened in your life. I have already received thousands of reports. It will make your soul shiver. But there is an important warning I need to make now, and I want you to keep this well guarded. As you begin to occupy this new state, life will test you, not because the universe is cruel, but because every rise in consciousness requires that the old be broken first. People will disappoint you. Old situations will return in a new format, just to see if you still react the same way you reacted before. Internal voices will whisper that you are deceiving yourself, that this is fantasy, that you should go back to what was safe. And it is at that exact moment that persistence becomes the most sacred virtue of the law of assumption. To persist is not to insist on an external desire. It is to remain in an inner state, even when the external disagrees, even when no one around you supports you, even when your own old mind tries to pull you back to the grave you decided to abandon. And then comes the most beautiful part of all this, and I want you to feel it now calmly. You are not alone on this journey. The infinite consciousness that sustains the entire universe, which some call God, others call the inner Christ, others call simply the I Am, is inside you, waiting to be occupied with consciousness. Not in a distant church in the city center, not in a golden temple on another continent, not in a book outside of you kept somewhere, inside, in your own chest. When you occupy the state of the person who has already received, you are not asking God, you are agreeing with God. You are saying Amen with your entire presence to what He has already granted you since before time existed. And this is the prayer that moves mountains. This is the prayer that heals families. This is the prayer that changes biographies. And that is why your story, seen from the fourth dimension at this exact instant, already has another ending. This ending already exists. It is already ready. It only waits for you to change states to materialize in this dimension of flesh and blood. The loss of the past was preparation. The delay was gestation. The silence of the heavens, which you often interpreted as abandonment in nights of crying, was actually the necessary inner maturation so that, when the blessing finally arrived, you would be able to sustain it without breaking, without sabotaging yourself, without losing yourself. You needed to lose the old version to be born as this new version that is hearing these words now. And this new version, it is strong, it is centered, it is conscious of what it is doing. It is capable, finally, of inhabiting the state of abundance without fleeing from it at the first difficulty. Before you close this video and return to your routine, I need to remind you of something important. You did not reach the end of this message out of curiosity. You were led here on this June 12th because there is a calling being fulfilled in your life that goes far beyond what your rational mind can still understand. And you have a responsibility now, not just to yourself, to your house, to your children, to that person who still looks at you waiting for a direction, waiting to see light in your eyes. The digital book, How to Know If God Will Save You in the Final Judgment, was written exactly for the soul that is awakening now, like yours. The link is in the description and pinned at the top of the comments. Access it today, not tomorrow. Today, before sleeping. Because the state of consciousness in which you fall asleep tonight will decree your next chapter. And if this message touched something deep inside you, write I am there in the comments as a living decree of who you have chosen to be from now on. Subscribe to the channel as a decree of acceptance of this new journey. Leave your like as your soul's agreement with everything that has just been revealed. And may you tonight, upon closing your eyes, occupy the state of the person who has already received. Because it was preparation, it always was. And now the hour has come.